Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we are unpacking something absolutely fascinating. It's a highly specific convergence of recent esoteric texts, holistic health research, and light body science. And you know what's wild? All of these completely different sources are pointing to the exact same radical conclusion. They're claiming that this crushing, widespread fatigue millions of people are feeling right now in 2026 isn't just everyday burnout. No. They say it is actually a profound cosmic event. So we're going to look closely at these claims, objectively analyze their frameworks, and figure out exactly why they believe humanity is undergoing a systemic cell timeline restructuring. To all our focused learners out there, welcome. Here's our roadmap for our journey today. We'll start with the 2026 fatigue epidemic, move into the cosmic pressure cooker, explore the systemic timeline restructuring, decode the biological software upgrade, and finally, wrap up with some practical grounding and integration practices. Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, the 2026 fatigue epidemic. If you have been sitting there wondering, why am I literally so tired even after sleeping a full 8 hours? Well, the sources we're analyzing today absolutely validate your experience. Impartially reporting on the data from holistic practitioners like Valerie O'Callahan and Jost Sauer, they're describing a crushing, bone-deep exhaustion. We're talking about a heavy, sluggish feeling that normal rest, a solid night's sleep, or even endless cups of coffee simply cannot cure. It's this systemic fatigue that leaves your body feeling like it literally just ran a marathon while you were sleeping.
Now, to really understand these source texts, we have to adopt their framework. You see, they frame this widespread fatigue not as an illness, but as ascension symptoms. They define these as physical, emotional, and spiritual changes that signal your body and consciousness are upgrading to a higher vibrational frequency. So whether you want to call it ascension, a coherence shift, or an awakening, this essentially establishes the core vocabulary we'll be using throughout the rest of this explainer.
Moving right along to Section 2, the cosmic pressure cooker. Let's look at the environmental shifts triggering all this. Consider this staggering number for a second, 54. Back in 2019, there was just one major solar flare for the whole year. But in 2024, there were 54 major solar flares. That is a record high since tracking began. Researchers and biofield scientists link this massive, measurable spike in solar radiation directly to human physiology. They suggest these photon blasts are quite literally overloading the human nervous system, basically forcing our cells to integrate much higher frequencies of light. But you know, solar flares are really just one piece of the puzzle here. In partially listing the converging forces described in the texts, we're looking at an unprecedented cosmic pressure cooker. The Earth's changing electromagnetic heartbeat, the Schumann resonance, is spiking 20% higher than its normal baseline. At the same time, we are ending a massive 26,000-year equinox cycle. And if we pull from astrology sources, specific July 2026 transits, like the balsamic moon and Neptune retrograde, are reportedly causing incredibly deep subconscious processing. No wonder everyone's so exhausted. So what does this all mean? Well, the texts suggest all of this cosmic pressure is forcing a collective timeline split. They frame this as a shift from 3D to 5D consciousness. 3D consciousness is the dense reality we are allegedly leaving. It's based on separation, fear, basic survival, and linear time. By contrast, the 5D consciousness we are supposedly stepping into is all about unity, love, and present moment awareness. And here's the kicker. The intense friction between these two states is exactly what generates that soul-crushing fatigue.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, Systemic Timeline Restructuring. Let's explore the spiritual architecture here.
I want to guide you through this timeline, which comes directly from author Tasha Rubion's Return Architecture. Notice exactly where we are right now. We've moved from the era of forgetting, pushed through the spark and collapse phases, and currently, between 2024 and 2026, we are squarely in the corridor phase. This is a highly specific window where old structures, your jobs, your relationships, even old identities, are literally collapsing to make way for new energetic signals. It is the messy middle before we finally reach full signal synchronization. And this brilliantly illustrates what the texts refer to as breed mechanics. The sources claim that as your soul's signal physically integrates into your body, you essentially become a living conductor for this new architecture. This physical integration is exactly what causes those bizarre sensations people report, like unexplained chills out of nowhere, sudden heat pulses, or that really intense pressure right along your spine. Your body is quite literally conducting a structural recalibration.
This actually brings us to a highly discussed and quite literal concept in these materials, the timeline split. Now, maintaining neutrality on this fascinating claim, sources like esoteric teacher Carrie Kay suggest an actual, real separation of realities is occurring right in front of us. It's described as a convergence point where realities are pulling apart, creating a membrane between distinct streams of energy. Eventually, people operating on different frequencies might feel like they are quite literally living in two completely different worlds.
All right, Section 4, the biological software upgrade. Let's look at why this system update feels so uncomfortable. I really want to lean heavily on this fantastic, super accessible metaphor from holistic expert Joost Sauer. He says you're changing operating systems while still trying to run your old software. Think about when your computer runs a major update, right? Everything is slow, it's glitchy, apps keep crashing. Well, the sources argue your spiritual and biological systems are undergoing the exact same clunky upgrade right now, except unfortunately, you can't just unplug yourself to fix it. So what does this biological software upgrade actually feel like day to day? Beyond that bone-deep soul fatigue we talked about, people are reporting intense crown pressure, consistently waking up between 1 and 4 a.m. to supposedly process cosmic downloads, and severe time distortion, where hours literally feel like minutes. There is also this sudden, complete loss of interest in 3D drama, office gossip, or old identities. If you're experiencing these, the sources really want to reassure you. You are part of a massive collective narrative. Ultimately, the texts claim this intense upgrade anchors us to what they call the sigil of the new Earth. This new paradigm is described not as a brutal test of endurance, but as a reward. It signifies a transition to a timeline where joy and structural harmony actually become our default state of being. However, we really must impartially deliver a crucial medical disclaimer here. The sources themselves strongly advise ruling out physical illness, because spiritual ascension and medical conditions can and absolutely do coexist. If you are experiencing chest pain, severe or worsening headaches, sudden vision changes, persistent ringing in your ears, or severe memory loss, you need to actually go see a doctor. Protecting your physical health is absolutely paramount while navigating these energetic shifts. So the crucial point is, what do we actually do about all this? That brings us to Section 5, grounding and integration practices. The first practical tool they offer is square breathing coherence. It is incredibly simple, but so effective. You just inhale for 4 counts, hold it for 4, exhale for 4, and hold empty for 4. The texts explain that this technique rapidly shifts your brainwaves out of 3D reactivity and straight into 5D receptivity. It creates instant nervous system coherence, calming the body's erratic signals so you can actually process these energetic upgrades without your system panicking. Next is a really fascinating psychological tool they call the 90-second karma timer. When you feel a 3D trigger hit you, like sudden anger, judgment, or cynicism, just pull out your phone and start a 90-second timer. Then, just be still, breathe, let the emotion pass completely through you without engaging with it. Basic psychology actually shows that emotions naturally pass in 90 seconds if we don't feed them a narrative. The sources highlight this as a vital way to prevent energetic stagnation and avoid creating new karma during periods of intense emotional overwhelm. To summarize the purely physical grounding practices, the sources heavily emphasize supporting the body's literal crystalline structures. They recommend drinking over 2 liters of water daily just to aid bioelectric conduction. They say to eat mineral-dense root vegetables to replenish heavily taxed magnesium and zinc, and to get outside for some barefoot earthing. But above all, they highly recommend 20 minutes of morning standing pole qigong. They claim this specifically anchors cosmic energy and significantly shortens the duration of these difficult ascension phases. We're going to conclude this explainer with an incredibly empowering reframe straight from the source texts. Tasha Rubion writes, "You are not catching up to your soul, it is catching fire with you." I mean, what a beautiful way to contextualize what often just feels like a breakdown, right? If you objectively step into this framework, how might your perspective change today if you viewed your sheer exhaustion not as a failure, but as the friction of your own cosmic evolution? Thanks so much for learning with us, and we'll see you in the next explainer.
Before you go, I don't support generic spiritual tools online. But after years analyzing this space for law of attraction manifestation and angel numbers channel, I focus only on concepts that feel thoughtful instead of hype-driven. If you've ever wanted a highly intellectual perspective on your numbers, life path, and recurring themes, let's look at the math. Head over to my profile page or video description to launch your free personalized experience today. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and follow for more angel number insights, spiritual mindset upgrades, and manifestation wisdom. Thanks for supporting and watching. Have a great day.